So I want to tell you real quickly here, you know, I wouldn't say reticence, but I was like resistant to going out and teaching the straight line. And I'll tell you why I was resistant. Is because if it's used the wrong way, it can be really evil and manipulative. You get people to do things they shouldn't do, to buy things they shouldn't buy. It's very, very manipulative if it's used the wrong way. I could take any person, just, you know, any human being with a straight line, and I want to just draw it for you real quick, just so you know what it is. Something you're going to see a lot of in the next 2 days. And literally, I promise you this, I don't care if you're the best salesman in the world. Some of you are on a scale of 1 to 10, you're probably a 10. Best salesman ever. Some of you could be a 1. You're just starting out. And that's where you are, right? It's fine. No big deal. The straight line can take any person, any human being, regardless of age, race, creed, color, socioeconomic background, educational status, it does not matter. I'll take any one of you and make you an absolute killer on the phone, in person, it doesn't matter. That's what the straight line does. And when I invented it back in 1988, I had the greatest intentions. I really did. I wanted to take young kids that were 18, 19 years old with zero sales experience, and my goal was to take them and make them into killers. And I came up with this visual. Just want you to take a look at it. And this is the straight line. It's as simple as that. And what it basically is, it's goal-oriented selling. Rather than, you know, when I walk into a sales force and I train corporations for selling, 99% of the time when I walk into a company, they hand me like their pitch sheet or whatever it might be. They all have like lead sheets or and their presentation sheets, right? And usually it looks like just a giant sheet of paper with lots of words on it. And, you know, if the customer says this, you do this, and it's this giant blob, an amorphous blob. And usually what I'll do to get their attention is I'll light it on fire. I'll just light the thing on fire. Say, this is the biggest piece of shit, excuse my language, I've ever seen in my life. Because most of the time, the scripts that you see out there, what they force a salesman to do is go around in circles. And there's no actual goal-oriented start and a finish. And that's the real key to selling. It doesn't just apply to selling. It's in all situations of communication. Whether it's with your spouse, and I caution you when you learn some of this stuff, some of it could be really manipulative with your spouse. So don't use it for that. You know, use it to really, for the right reasons. Here's what the right reason is. It's, number one, to get people to buy things that they should buy. To overcome obstacles to buying that they shouldn't have. Because we all have these buying obstacles. And there are these limiting beliefs we have about buying and making decisions, and they hold us back from taking action. So what the straight line really does is a very regimented way to get someone, which this is called the promised land, here, right, where they give you their credit card number, they give you cash, whatever it might be, whatever you're selling. I know you're selling a lot of different stuff here, different products, right? And this is where you start, right here. Okay, and what's going to happen here is you're going to learn to know these dotted lines that are right here on either side of your sale. And you're going to learn to become masters of controlling every linguistic encounter. And that's the key to the straight line. What it allows you to do is before you start, before you make any sale, I don't care what you're selling, if it's cars, stocks, credit repair, debt settlement, subscriptions to a magazine, memberships to a club, seminars, it doesn't matter. Every sale is the same. And now you say, well, wait a second, every sale is not the same, right? They say different stuff and people have different objections. I get that. What I'm saying is that you're going to learn to take every person's objections and manage them in a way that empowers them, but that also allows you to keep control of the situation, of the sale. Because what happens is once they take control of the sale, you're done. And those of you who are experienced, you kind of know that. The key to selling is to maintain control of the sales. I want to give you some background into sort of what some of the stuff you might have taken sales courses in the past, and I wanted to kind of demystify some things about what selling really is. And I want you to know that I've trained about 20,000 people, and I've never had a person, zero, I've never had a person not blow up and become wildly successful with a straight line as long as I had 3 attributes, and I'll tell you what they are. Number one is a desire to be really wealthy. If you don't have that, you really can't be in sales. You have to have a desire to be wealthy. And it got to be a burning desire. And that really is about finding out what your whys are in life. You know, why are you doing what you're doing? If you're just doing it for a buck to make a little bit of money, that's not a really powerful why. So we're going to get into that later. The second thing is you need to be able to take advantage of an opportunity when it comes knocking at your door. Like right now. I'm telling you, I could take any one of you and dramatically increase your production by at least 50%, the first month. Anything that you don't like that I say, just disregard it. But I promise you this, that what I'm going to say, if you accept it into your heart, it will blow you away and it will change your life. I've made more millionaires with this system than you could possibly imagine. Millionaires, many times over. People that worked for me that were losers were making $250,000 a year. The losers. Winners were making $600,000-$700,000, and the real winners were making $2 million, $3 million a year using the straight line. And some of them were 18 years old and had been working in a pool room the year before, or a car wash. Seriously. Had zero sales experience, but using the straight line would just literally soar. They would soar. Because what it does, it gives you the psychology to understand what selling is all about. And I caution you again, if anything, please, please, please maintain your ethics with this. Please. Because you're going to, when you really understand the power of it, you're going to see how it can be really, really evil if it's used the wrong way. And I went off course. I did. I went off course. I took this and I, went wild. I was making $50 million a year. $50 million a year. Not sales, profit. In my pocket, $1 million a week, and I was 25 years old. So I went wild. I started doing massive quantities of drugs. I went off the charts. I'm sober for 13 years, which is a great accomplishment, but I went through hell to get to this point of clarity right now, where everything I tell you will be 100% appropriate and ethical. So please, everyone, raise your hand and say aye if you agree not to use this for unethical reasons. Raise your hand and say aye. Okay, thank you, great. That's really important to me because you can't go out there hog wild with this stuff because you're going to get people to do, you're going to be shocked. I've had people I train the next day, like, I just doubled my production. I'll show you some testimonials afterwards. And by the way, if I was looking to close you, I would have started today off with like 20 testimonials. And we'll get to that too. But that's not the purposes of today. This is just to train you and educate you. In the old days, they say, okay, you're going to develop rapport 10% of the time, right? 20% of the time will be qualifying. Then you have 30% where you'll be actually presenting and 40% closing. And the example of this is like, you ever seen the movie Tin Men? Where like they're these door-to-door salesmen. They go in for a couple of seconds. They drop a $5 bill on the floor. They say, ooh, is this your money to get credibility with the people? They develop rapport like that. And they go and give a quick couple of questions they can afford, and they slam the presentation, and bam, they close, 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 until either the person says no, or they just hit them over the head until they say yes. That's the old selling model. And this model's got a bad rap. Okay, if you say to someone, oh, I sell them a closer, it has some stigma to it. So they came up with the new model, which I think is a total joke. Okay, here's the new model. Okay, right here. Okay, and what this is called consultative selling. And this is selling for people that don't want to admit they're selling. They're like, I'm not really selling anybody. I'm just filling people's needs by asking them what they want. So what happens is this. Most of the time is spent building relationships or developing rapport, 40% of the time, right? 30% of the time, right, you're identifying what their needs are. Then you present solutions 20% of the time, and then you close 10% of the time. So you're really never even closing, just a little sliver, right? This is the biggest crock of shit I've ever seen in my life, okay? And I'll tell you why, okay? And you're in sales, right? If you're not closing, you got to get out of the business, okay? You know when your closing starts in sales? I'll tell you exactly when it starts. It starts right here. The instant you open up your mouth, you're closing the sale. Every word that you utter is about getting to this point of the line. There's nothing evil about selling or persuading or influencing if you're selling a quality product and if you've qualified the person out and it's what they need. But you got to wipe the shit out of your head that there's anything wrong with influencing people. If that's how you feel, and I don't think there's really anyone in this room that feels it because you're salespeople. But sometimes I walk into a room and they're like, well, I'm not really a salesperson per se. I'm just like, identifying people's needs and trying to fill them elegantly. So here's what I ask you for. There's only two things. Number one is 60 days. And please write this down. This is important. For the next 60 days, while you embrace this system, and I promise it will dramatically improve your production, I want you to stretch. And what that means is you work twice as hard. I've been in business about 50 times in my life. I've taken public about 120 companies, raised $1.5 billion for venture capital. And I'll tell you this, I failed about 40 times. Been bankrupt. Had business I built up, didn't work, right? So what happens in life is this. There are certain windows that you have when things are working. And when you have that, you got to work twice as hard. It's like a window to jump through of opportunity, right? That's the way it is. So what I want you to do is right now, when you're first learning the system, don't say, okay, well, it really works. I'm just going to kind of do what I always did. However many calls you're making, I want you to make twice as many calls. If you're dressing a certain way, dress that way every second of the day. Whatever your commitment is to your thoughts, what you're thinking about, where you're going in life, the goals you're setting, I want you to stretch them, not forever. Not forever. Just for 2 months, 60 days. Because that's the kind of the amount of time that it takes for you really to take hold and internalize this stuff, okay? So that's number one, okay? Ethical guidelines. This is the second thing. And I said it again, and I said before, I'll say it again, okay? Number one, okay, do not pressure a client to do something they should not do. Write that down, please, and ensconce it indelibly in your mind. And in about 2 hours, you'll say, I know why he's saying that now. Because you're going to realize there are certain unconscious buying triggers and certain tonal patterns that make people buy things they shouldn't buy when used the wrong way. Do not use this for that. Okay? Next, never pressure a client to do something they shouldn't buy. So don't to do something or buy something. Right? Very important. Okay? The widget. Anyone know what a widget is? Anyone know? It's a mythical product. What's a widget, right? That's the question, okay? When we were in school, they taught us about widgets in economics. What a widget is if you want to make a model of something, what you do is you come up with a basic overall model. It doesn't really matter what the product is, but you can then take the product through all layers of production, through producing it, through distributing it, selling it, marketing it, right? The old widget, okay? So here's the challenge that I face when I deal with a group of diverse people, because you're all from different industries. Rather than coming up with because I need to have a script here that I take you through for tonal patterns. So rather than taking from, for credit repair or auto sales or stocks or bonds, what I did is I created a generic script for you. And it's for some product that's really, really difficult to sell. So what we're going to be doing for the next 2 days is I want you to pretend right now you're selling not what you're selling day to day. You're selling a generic product. And I'm going to show you how to sell a generic product over the phone, okay? And it's a $4,000 product, $4,000 product to people that you don't know, that you've never spoken to before. And basically, you're going to have 4 seconds to capture their imagination and 1 call to close the sale. Now, just so you know, the reason I picked this kind of product, it's like being trained to be a Navy SEAL. Right? Once you go through this rigorous training, everything else seems pretty easy, right? So my goal is to show you how to sell something right now that is really, really hard to sell. And then you'll say, geez, wow, I can sell that. So when you go back to selling whatever it is, a $90 product to get them into a funnel or a $300, whatever it might be, it's going to seem really, really easy. Because the techniques to sell, it doesn't matter. You can be selling anything, okay? So we're going to pick a product. What it is, it's a seminar, actually, and it's a training that I did in England, where I was training this company. I walked in, and it was the worst sales force in